Vibrations.
Yeah. Can you feel it, baby? I can too.
They can be good, bad, or indifferent. Just ask Nikola Tesla, lover of vibrations and man who invented the deathless android known as Elon Musk. Tesla famously said on his deathbed, "I have but one final wish, that Oklahoma would name a city after me." And Oklahoma said, "Tulsa?" And Tesla said nothing because he was dead from That's the intro to this video, whether you like it or not. Hi, I'm Ramses Vanderslice, and this is how music and songs and other loud noises are slowly murdering everyone you love and also turning them into mindless drones, but mostly murdering them. And more bad news. To get a firm understanding of how music is killing your crops and ruining your car's highway fuel efficiency, we need to go back.
We have to go back!
Way back. Back to the beginning of sound itself. Now, some people think that sound started with the Big Bang, but those people are dumb and don't know and weren't there. But I know someone who was there. Now, this source doesn't want me to use his real name, so let's just call him Cobb Sharker. In his New York Times best-selling memoir, Expensive Recollections, Cobb hinted that he might actually be a fallen angel. So I decided to set up an interview. So you were there?
Yes, I was there at the beginning. It fucking blew. It was the first universe God had ever made, so of course it wasn't perfect. Obviously one of the biggest flaws was that it was just a bunch of stupid gas. Lucifer and I would approach God and say, "You know, this whole reality thing kinda sucks." And he'd say, no, just watch. It's about to get good. That's all he said for the first 200 million years. It never got good.
Never.
You see this shit? Anyway, Universe 1.0 was terrible for a lot of reasons.
Right.
It was only in black and white and tended to overheat and crash if you didn't clean the dust out of it. And it ran at about 10 frames a second, which meant most of the heavenly host was just nauseous and vomiting nonstop. Oh, and it had no sound. In fact, when God decided to add sound, most of the critics thought it was going to be a gimmick.
Right.
But then God played the first ever fart noise, and everyone quickly agreed that this was an improvement. Smells, though, smells were a mistake.
So that's where sound came from. But how exactly does it work? Well, most physicists agree that when something makes a sound, what it is actually doing is sending out long, thin, invisible noodles that slap your ear at different speeds. This is called noodle theory, and it's where the phrase, "letting the old linguine tickle your ear holes," comes from. For as long as sounds have existed, they've been used to control the minds of human beings. Don't believe me? Well, try this. Go up to the nearest person on the street and say,
"Stop! You violated the law. Pay the court a fine or serve your sentence."
I guarantee you they will stop, whether they want to or not. See, God programmed these sorts of fail-safes into us when we were still a new species, so he could stop us from eating too much dirt, but he never removed them. This vestigial programming has allowed evil forces to subconsciously control our every move by assaulting us with the worst kind of noodles. But it wasn't always this way. To understand how current music is bad noodles, we have to go back to a time when it was good noodles. Top musicologists from the University of Garbanzo suggest that music was invented in the early 1300s when a group of burning peasants accidentally screamed in harmony. It was a simpler time when people were one with nature and knew their neighbors and died of typhus. It was a time before tuning machines. If you wanted to know what notes to sing, you had to go to Hezekiah and say, "Hey, Hezekiah, can I get some notes?" And he'd say, I think that's a note. And you'd say, "Why, thank you, Hezekiah. That is a note, indeed. I'm leaving now." And if you were found singing any notes other than the ones that you were given, you were hung for treason.
"Stop! You violated the law."
But when Hezekiah retired from note-giving on August 8th, 1888, the world fell into turmoil. How would people know which notes were the right notes? This day is now commonly referred to as the day the music died. But it didn't stay dead for long. Enter Heinrich Hertz and Googly Eyes Macaroni.
Fight!
Hertz discovered that certain frequencies could essentially rewire the human brain, especially the frequency 440 Hertz. This is because the universe naturally vibrates at certain frequencies, and, as Joel D. Morrison tells me every night before I fall asleep, this move is accomplished through an analogous sort of interharmonizing of the internal energies to attain a self-reinforcing and But Hertz's ambitions were small potatoes in the grand scheme of things. It's true, he did push for A440 standardization, that is, that the A above middle C should match the pitch of 440 Hertz, but his only real goal was to brainwash listeners into naming their children Heinrich. Did it work? Well, I think this graph speaks for itself. But A440 was still only a small phenomenon, only adhered to in certain sections of the German Confederation and the People's Republic of Dennis. That is, until Macarena came along. You see, Zamboni knew that if you could wirelessly transmit music across the globe, you could widen the area of standardization. And that's exactly what Macaroon did. By inventing the radio, Jabroni made A440 the de facto tuning of the entire world. Over the ensuing years, various bad actors would use these bad noodles to varying degrees of badness. There were the disco immolations, the Moody Blues incident of '68, and of course the Cello Wars. But in 1977, our overlords created a song so insipid, so aggressively bland, so soulless, cloying, and deafeningly unoriginal that it made Afternoon Delight sound like the rite of spring. I'm talking, of course, about Margaritaville. Margaritaville is the song that a damp saltine would write on a used bar napkin right before asking the waitress about her tits. Margaritaville is the oral equivalent of stubbing your toe on a nest of radioactive wolverines. If Margaritaville were a person, it would be two Hitlers stacked on top of each other under a trench coat made from the 101 Dalmatians. But it isn't just the lyrics, delivery, instrumentation, mixing, mastering, tempo, and tone of this song that make it a war crime in several countries. No, if you listen to the first few notes, something else becomes immediately apparent. Did you hear that? Let's listen again. The first notes of Margaritaville are the A above middle C, the fifth note in the key of D, which the song is sung in. That means that A440 is sounding throughout pretty much every second of this musical monstrosity. Do you know why Jimmy Buffett fans are called parrot heads? It's not because they all rip the heads off of live parrots in their spare time. That's just incidental. No, it's because they've been brainwashed to do exactly what parrots do. Listen and repeat. And because our overlords control the media, which technically includes the radio, they've made sure that Margaritaville is always in rotation. If you were born after 1977, you may have noticed that your life is in shambles and nobody loves you and you feel like garbage. But do you know why this is? It's because at any given moment, a radio station close to you is playing Margaritaville. And the neat thing about radio waves is that regardless of whether you got the radio on or not, they're passing through you. Margaritaville is phasing through you, becoming a part of you, no matter what you do. Margaritaville is the reason 50% of marriages end in divorce. So, where do we go from here? Well, many of my fellow conspiracy theorists suggest moving toward A432, a frequency that they claim has restorative, even generative powers. And I was on board with this until I was blessed with a vision after a long night of eating rubber cement. See, A432 isn't the answer at all. It's just the beginning of a slippery slope that will lead us to our inevitable destruction, because 432 isn't going to be enough for some people. They're going to want A350 or A215, and slowly but surely over the next 100 years, our music is going to drop in pitch until it can't be heard by human ears at all, which is exactly what the elephant people want. And once that happens, there's going to be no hope for us regular humans. The answer is clear. We need to bring back Hezekiah and throw Jimmy Buffett into a volcano.